Hello, everyone. Welcome to BlockLeap Academy. Today, we are going to see network design apply to the Bitcoin ecosystem. And I always start saying that when you try to prove to people that Bitcoin is the new gold, people always say, look, I can't believe that Bitcoin is the new gold, but it's online. And if every year a 16-year-old kid can hack the Pentagon, how can I be sure that nobody is going to hack Bitcoin? Because if you can hack the Pentagon, you could hack Bitcoin. This is a very good question. And I always answer with this lesson, okay? You can't compare a centralized system like the Pentagon with a distributed, we will see what the distributed network is, like such as Bitcoin. And this is part of the answer. You can't hack Bitcoin for this reason. So we are going to dive into the security features of Bitcoin. In my advanced course about Bitcoin, and even the intermediate, we talk about 7 levels of security. We are going to see only 3, okay, for the beginner lessons, but they are really powerful already. So I would say that the first layer or the first shield of security for the Bitcoin ecosystem is what I'm going to explain right now, okay? But before we go there, I just want to do another talk about another premise, okay? Imagine you are learning this course or learning this technology, Bitcoin technology, because you want, you're an executive somewhere. So when you design a network, any kind of network, not even a crypto one, but any kind of network, you always have, if you are an engineer, to think of 4 aspects of your network. The speed, the security, the scalability, and the evolution, which is for businesses very important. And then the maintenance and the relationship with the legacy system, the system which is already in place, okay? Again, we are not going to go through the point 3 and 4, which are for maybe intermediate or maybe more business-oriented lessons, but I just want to focus today on security and speed. And if you are in, we are going to explain why, if you've got security, you can't have speed. And when you have speed, you really can't have security. This is very important to understand. Okay, so you live, I live, we live in a world where basically, if we had, imagine we are like you are in a creative course, and the teacher asks you, what would be the symbol, one of the symbols which represents your life in this society? I personally would take the first one, the centralized one. Why? Because everything I do and everything you do in this society, in this world, is basically based on this. Everything you do it through a centralized network. I would say 99% of all your life. You go to the supermarket, you pay with your card, centralized system, the bank is centralized. You go to the school or your kid's school or your own school, everything you do it through a centralized party. Everything you do, think of everything, you will always at one point go through a centralized system. And this means a lot when you start thinking about it. And I actually, before Bitcoin, I never thought about that. But because Bitcoin is basically claiming that we need freedom in a world where everything is online and everything is centralized and everything is controlled, all what you do can be screened, stored, sold, I started really to think of this as a major point, all right? So think of your life as this symbol, and what is very worrying and important, we will see you've got the positive and the negative aspect, is that here in the very center of this centralized system, you've got what we call a unique point of failure. What does it mean? I was talking before about the Pentagon. This 16 years old attacked this point here, because you can be the Pentagon, you are centralized, and somewhere you will have like a point of failure where if you can enter this point of failure, you are the boss, basically. You can enter and you can say nothing, stay and spy and get all the information you want. Or if you are like a nasty hacker, you can take down the system, or you can just take a part of it. You can do whatever you want because you reach the central point, the point of command, which is very, very important. So if you talk about banks, for instance, you know that banks every year worldwide, they spend hundreds of billions in order to not only secure this point of failure, but as well, because they fail all the time, they have to pay, actually we pay for this kind of hacking. But the banking system and every single company spend a lot of money trying to protect themselves. And obviously they fail because you always have very good hacker, better hacker. And even if you say, oh, I've got a new security system and you are a big organization, the hacker can get the password of one of your employees and enter the system, okay? So this is very important for you to understand. The other network, which is very, very, well, you use it, maybe not actually. It's really, really, some companies can use it. So let's say centralized would be 95% of your life, and maybe 3 or 4% are decentralized system. We are going to see in detail what they are, but just looking at that now, you can see here you've got only one point of failure. Here you've got 4, 5, okay? So let's talk now about, really quickly, about resilience. Here, so the security of it, okay? Here we just said the security is very bad, is very low, because you've got this unique point of failure. Here, you've got now, it's a way better, it's more resilient, because if I'm a hacker and I'm attacking this point here, but the system can react because it's got more points of failure. So in a way, it's way more complicated and difficult to take down a decentralized system, okay? And then the third one is distributed system, which is the Bitcoin system. And if you look at it, all right, you can see that you've got no center, or the center is everywhere, meaning that there is no centralization, there is no unique point of failure. So now let's talk about two things: the way you communicate in each of these networks. The communication here is really, really not good, because if you have this node here, this blue point, and you want to communicate to this other one here, you can't talk from one point to another. In order to talk to someone else, you need to go to the center, the unique point of failure, and these people in the center are going to decide if yes or no they want to pass on the message. So for instance, you are on Facebook and you send a message, you really think you are communicating directly to your friend, but actually no, your message goes through this central point, and in this central point, it can be decided that your message is nasty and they don't want to publish it, okay? So the communication here inside a centralized system is not a democratic one. In a way, this is why the cypherpunks and the people who invented Bitcoin decided to create distributed system, where everyone in the system can communicate in a peer-to-peer fashion. because there is no centralization. The only way to communicate in a distributed system is from one point to another, is a peer-to-peer fashion, okay? Here is going through the central point. So can you see now the massive difference? The centralized system is going to allow you, one, to enter, or they are going to say, no, sorry, we don't want you in this system. So bank account, you are 15, you want to open a bank account, and your dad doesn't want to allow you. The bank is going to say, no, sorry, no. So this is typical of a centralized system. You can't participate unless the people in the center say, yes, you can participate. And then once you are in it, these same people can say, oh, sorry, we don't want you to communicate or to say these sort of things, okay? So these are the downsides of a centralized system. But if you are, let's say, a bank, you lose your card or you lose your password, you just have to call, show that your passport, and you will get a new password. So this is the good aspect of it. And the third good aspect is that these systems are very fast. Visa, MasterCard, when you buy a coffee, it's an instant payment. It's very, very fast, okay? So here you've got the security for centralized system, very low, but they are very fast, okay? This is what you've got. Now, if you go to a distributed network, the communication is pure freedom because it's a peer-to-peer transaction and a peer-to-peer communication. But in order to have every single point with the same amount of data or the same information, the network needs a lot more time in order to verify that this data is not corrupt in every single point. This is why we say that a distributed network is very, very, very safe, but very, very slow. Why? Because you need to update every single point, and all these points must observe, spy on each other all the time in order to make sure they've got the same amount of information. So I go back to the beginning. When you design a system, you have to think that if you've got speed, you will not have, because generally if you've got speed, you've got centralization, okay? So the security is low, the speed is high. If you've got a distributed system, which is absolutely with no central point, no third party deciding for you, you are going to have a very, very resilient system, but at the same time, it's going to be very, very slow, all right? So, let's recap really quickly. In a centralized system, as I said, this is not you deciding if you can opt in, okay? These people in the unique point of failure are deciding for you. And these systems are designed to be closed because their primary security relies on access control, okay? But even though their security is very poor, because I explained this unique point of failure is a conundrum and nobody can resolve it, okay? So decentralized networks are way more resilient, okay? And they are faster than decentralized, but they are still not strong enough regarding security, okay? But they don't have a single authority, and they don't have a single point of failure. So it's already a lot better, okay? And the communication is still from point to point, okay, from secondary nodes to other nodes. So for instance, I always give an example. If you are like a freedom fighter or a terrorist, okay, and you want to organize a network, with very clear objectives, you are going, and actually the white supremacist movement in America is organized like that, okay? Is when you take down a cell, this one, for instance, the system can really cut the tie, and it's very difficult geographically to link one cell to another. Again, because you've got no single point of failure here. You've got several. So it's possible to take down a decentralized system, but you have to spend really a lot of money and manpower. And when we talk about distributed system, it's absolutely impossible, I would say, to take it down altogether, okay? Because each node is connected to every other node. Right, so in conclusion, and this is very important to remember, that Bitcoin is unhackable. And this is, I would say, for my money, the first level of security in Bitcoin. Remember, there are 7. The first one would be the very structure of the network, which is a distributed network, which is already, even without the cryptography and the miners, these are the two levels, it would be already difficult to take down, okay? So think of the very nature of the network is already distributed and very difficult to take down, right? So remember that when we talk about the Bitcoin ecosystem, we say this a peer-to-peer decentralized distributed or peer-to-peer distributed system, okay? Distributed, you know what it means now, and peer-to-peer because this is the only way you can communicate in such an environment. Remember, this lesson is absolutely fundamental to understand why Bitcoin is so difficult to take down, and I would say impossible to hack. And when someone asks you what is Bitcoin about, you can say it's a distributed peer-to-peer network. I hope it helped. See you soon. Bye-bye.